The Zelda games have been beaten in many different ways, be it the casual route, aka the Nintended way to play, beaten as fast as possible with glitches, and even challenges like only ever using a stick. But has Zelda ever been beaten backwards? I decided to tenet my way through The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword and attempt to beat all of the dungeons backwards to see just how wrong this game can be played. My goal was simple. I had to beat all of the dungeons in reverse order, which means starting with the game's final dungeon, Skykeep. After that, my second dungeon would be the 6th dungeon of Skyward Sword, Fire Sanctuary. I would then go on to do Sandship, Ancient Cistern, Linearu Mining Facility, Earth Temple, and finish with the first dungeon of this game, Skyview Temple. But just how exactly would I be able to do all these dungeons out of order? I would need a really powerful glitch that would allow me to advance through the game without beating any dungeons. And that's why I picked Skyward Sword, which houses one of the most powerful glitches out of any Zelda game: Back in Time. By dying, selecting continue, and then resetting the console, you can play as Link on the title screen. But why is this useful? To answer that, I first need to briefly mention what scene flags are. It's basically just confusing talk about the game's code, so I'll try to simplify it as much as I can. All events in Zelda, like shortcuts, bird statues, cutscenes, and even dungeons, are all marked with their own scene flags, which are basically just boxes waiting to be checked. This makes it so that you can't do the same thing over and over and over again. For example, once you get a heart piece, there is a scene flag that gets checked so you can't ever get it again. There is basically one big table with a whole bunch of scene flags, and this same table is shared across all regions in the game. Back in Time allows you to set scene flags while being able to control your files. And by starting your file and activating a scene flag, you can transfer that scene flag onto your file. Here's what I mean. In the Elden region, you need to collect these 5 key shards in order to open the door. This takes, I don't know, like 5 minutes or something really slow. However, if you save your file right next to the doors, activate Back in Time, sleep at a bed, go out to this graveyard, start your file, and push this grave, you will activate scene flag 5x02 while you start your file. The act of checking this box, or setting this scene flag, gets transferred to the file you started, which just so happens to be the same box that gets checked after you open the door when you get all the key shards, meaning we just opened the Earth Temple's door by pushing a grave. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. Bird statues, dungeon entrances, silent realms, and even getting early access to the boss rush minigame, which I'll talk more about later, are all possible with Back in Time. And that's just one instance of this glitch, which we call reverse bit magic. Bit standing for Back in Time. With this glitch, you can also start a file and enter a loading zone, so that when the fade out is up, you end up going on the other side of that loading zone. But we'll get back to that. First, it's time to start the run. And immediately we have our first glitch. Well, talking to Fledge isn't really a glitch, but it activates a scene flag, which we can use for later. This is another instance of Back in Time, which we call bit magic, or Back in Time magic. Bit magic is basically the reverse of reverse bit magic, or, reverse bit magic is the reverse of bit magic, but I'm explaining things out of order. Instead of transferring scene flags from Back in Time to our files, we can select our files, which will activate scene flags in Back in Time. Talking to Fledge will make it so that in the sealed grounds, when we select our file, this log will be set in the shortcut position so that we can climb up. We then save our game, activate Back in Time, and do what is called a bit save, where you save your file while in Back in Time. This is useful because whenever you save a file in Back in Time, this will also save the state of the map that you're on. In Skyward Sword, there are several different states of each area. And I'm not about to pretend that I know all the numbers, so allow me to just show the different states. Here's the state of Sealed Grounds, where nothing is loaded in and the bird statue is active. There's this state of Faron Woods, which is when the Deku Babas and fences are up properly. And this state of Faron Woods, which is when the goddess Hylia statue has been put into the Sealed Grounds. The state of Skyloft that the file select has, which necessarily means that the state of Skyloft that we are on in Back in Time has the door to the Hylia statue unlocked, meaning that by saving our file here when we load, we'll be able to walk right in and get the goddess sword. But before we actually start our file, we're going to use reverse bit magic to start our file and activate Faron Woods. Then we'll grab the goddess sword. Then we talk to Zelda, talk to Groose, save our Loftwing, and die and activate back in time. There's another instance of file management that we can use in this run that is also very important and very dangerous. If you select a file and then go out to the splash screen, which just means the Skyward Sword logo, and then you go to a bird statue and save without selecting another file in between that process, you will load file 3's information onto the file that you selected, which is a pretty neat way to copy files. I will then start file 2 right before I enter the loading zone for the sky, so that when I start my file, I am then in the sky. I do this so that I'm able to dive off my Loftwing for later reasons. Die, save my Loftwing again, and this is where diving comes into handy. Well, one of the 2 reasons why diving comes in handy. First of all, you need it to enter the pillars, especially right now because we are blocked by the tutorial of your Loftwing. But you can just dive past it, so we are A-okay. Then we save, activate back in time, and this is where the second reason being able to dive comes in handy. Having a file that's able to dive allows you to dive in back in time so that we can get to the Faron Pillar. I'm sorry if this is confusing to you, it's even confusing to me, and I've been playing this game for years. But I've got most of the explanation out of the way, so now is the fun part. When we enter back in time and we jump off the ledge, we will just fall to our deaths because we can't call our Loftwing. But if we bit save a file that can fly on our Loftwing and that has the Loftwing tutorial activated, we will then be able to fly into the sky. We can then dive off our Loftwing and enter the Faron Pillar while in back in time. Remember earlier when we talked to Fledge and how this sealed grounds log gets set when you activate that file? We're gonna use that right here to skip the whole sealed ground shenanigans. Talking to old ladies is slow. Sorry, Granny, we don't need you that much. Well, not yet anyway. Then we bit save file 1 and start our file so that we are now in Faron Woods. We save the Kiwis like normal, get ending blow first try cause we're a Giga Chad, and enter Skyview Temple. But wait, if I'm doing the dungeons backwards, why am I going to Skyview Temple? First of all, I said completing the dungeons backwards. Despite all my testing, despite all the back-in-time shenanigans, if you don't complete Skyview Temple, Eldin will be in a state where nothing is loading and nothing works. But it gets interesting after this. We save right at the start and use back in time to do a bit warp, where we save and start our file at the exact same time, taking the coordinates of the bird statue that's on Skyloft and applying it to the map that we are on, which in this case is Skyview Temple. We also have a really wonky state of Skyview, so this gate is not open, meaning we can go use this door and kill Fluffy and exit to load the rope. After we beat Girahim and get the Eldin tablet, we use back in time to activate the Eldin pillar and get the digging mitts. I don't think the digging mitts are important. I originally got them just in case I needed the magma mitts later on. Spoiler alert, I didn't. Then we talk to a grouchy old lady, use our slingshot to get this secret rupee to set a scene flag that I honestly have no clue what it does. I'm guessing this log in Faron Woods? But I don't know, because I don't have the route. I just followed a YouTube video. But it's important, trust me. Then we save right next to Earth Temple, push that grave that I mentioned earlier, and enter our second dungeon. But wait a minute, why are we going to Earth Temple? This is where having 3 save files comes in handy. We use a trick called Keys Yeet, where we put this keys in a very specific position so that we can use our Skyward Strike to cut down this rope, because we skipped the beetle earlier because slow. Then we use another instance of Back in Time where we talk to this guy and start our file so that this bridge will be activated. We get bombs, beat Scaldera, and unlock the Lanayru Pillar. We can use reverse bit magic to put the Lanayru Pillar on our file that has been inside Earth Temple because we need bombs, but has not completed Earth Temple, so that we've only done 1 dungeon so far. Then we'll use Back in Time to talk to Betro and start our file so that the statue of behind Lanayru Mining Facility will be activated so that we can get the harp. We use another bit warp to get way out of bounds in Lanayru, activate Lanayru Gorge early, and get this bird statue for later. Saving Machi and starting this file will make it so that this minecart that we are able to access with a bit warp and a difficult jump will be turned on, so that when we fall in the sand, this minecart will just randomly whoa, randomly show up. Once the minecart is stationed, we can then save our file, which does have to be file 2. This is very important, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, we need Granny to teach us how to play the harp and start our file, and now the Thunder Dragon is healed. The Thunder Dragon is at the very end of the game, so by having our file 2 in a state where the Thunder Dragon is active, we can activate Boss Rush. By loading the Imprisoned Fights 1 and 2, and then dying to both of them, we are able to load in certain states of separate maps, so that we can continue on using back-in-time shenanigans for later. I don't fully understand it myself, so basically, it's just important somehow. Nice voice crack. The reason why it's so important that we do this on file 2 instead of file 1 is because if I had my challenge file this far into the game, this Goron will not give me the small key to enter Lanayru Harbor, which means Sandship has been locked. We will then use back in time. First we need to get to Farron Woods, and then we'll activate file 2, which has certain parts of the game loaded because we died to Imprisoned earlier and we have the Thunder Dragon saved. We then die back in time to use a map reload. We save our file at this bird statue right here, and because of certain scene flags, the Farron Trial, where you get the Water Dragon scale to allow us to swim, will be opened. We'll start our file, and the game will load the Farron Silent Realm with the coordinates of the bird statue we selected, which is up here by this tier. So I will use back in time and go to the Loftwing tutorial. I head towards the Elden Pillar and select file 2, so that Boko Base will be the map that loads. But I start file 1, which isn't that far yet, so I'm able to access Boko Base without actually being that far. The reason why Boko Base is useful right now is because in this area of the game, you lose all of your items and they get stored in chests everywhere. But reaching this place early means that we can open these chests and get the Gust Bellows, Claw Shots, and Whip early, without ever getting these items. Then I make a quick pit stop to this bird statue, use the Claw Shots to get in this cave, and the Goron will give me the small key where I can access Sandship. I use back in time to talk to Betro so that I can activate Sandship early. I am going to progress pretty far into this dungeon because 1, I'm already here, and 2, I'm gonna need the bow for later. So I use 2 instances of back in time, here and here, which, well, I won't spoil the fun. I grab the bow and get out of Sandship. We can use another instance of back in time to go to the Lumpy Pumpkin, start our file, and talk to this guy. And then the Goddess's Silent Realm will be accessible to us, which will allow us to enter Skykeep, our second dungeon of the run. We use another instance of back in time here to lower this gate because, oh my gosh, this fight is horrible with the Goddess Sword. Trust me, you don't want to watch. We can use Clawshot Vine Clipping, which, oh my goodness, it is so easy in this game. As a Skyward Sword HD speedrunner myself, they kind of fixed this. You need to time a bomb explosion perfectly to hit yourself through the wall. It sucks. These arrow shots through the barbed wire is also significantly easier than Skyward Sword HD, and then we complete Skykeep for our second dungeon. Then, because I used an instance of back in time to activate this bird statue in front of Fire Sanctuary and make it so that the fire's gone, I can go over to the Elden region and get Fire Sanctuary ready for grabs. I will save in this first room and use 4 instances of back in time to lower the gate that is preventing us from getting the boss key, setting the flag of the Worm Mini-Boss in this room dying so that the gate won't close when we enter the room there, and using a bit warp to get in an outside state of this bridge, which will allow us to jump down without voiding out. We beat Girahim and complete Fire Sanctuary, our third dungeon. And now, we get to go to Lanayru, enter Sandship, and you remember those instances of back in time? Let's just say I made the dungeon a little easy. Jump over the gate, enter this door, jump over this gate, open this door, and boom, boss door's open. We don't need the key. Now we cut off some tentacles and get ready to fight the worst boss in the game. Whew, close one. But thankfully we beat him in 0.1 seconds, which I believe is the new world record. Yes, thank you, I'm awesome. And that is Sandship done for our 4th dungeon. We can use back in time to enter Lake Floria with File 3 to put this area in a state where there's no waterfall blocking the dungeon. We can also collect a rupee using File 1, which will basically load in all of our accessories so that we can actually use the Water Dragon scale and get into Ancient Cistern. By starting our file at the right time, we will spawn into this dungeon. Thankfully, I've been blessed with an amazing version of Skyward Sword. So all I need to do is backflip, walk forwards, and clip out of bounds. Now I can get the boss key, and since I already have the whip from Boko Base, I get to see the spooky scary skeleton using Wingardium Leviosa and climb my way up to Galactos and beat Ancient Cistern for our 5th dungeon. I will then go back to Lanayru, go to this statue, and after a few tries, do a certain instance of Back in Time that will not only open the Gate of Time, which is required for my glitchy file, and insanely fast, but it will also open up Lanayru Mining Facility. 2-for-1 deal, baby! This is where I would be super excited to say that we then beat Lanayru Mining Facility for our 6th dungeon, and then Earth Temple for our 7th and final dungeon. Unfortunately, Lanayru Mining Facility got messed up big time. My guess is because I have the harp on this file, which was actually required because of certain difficulties, but when I entered the loading zone, nothing would happen. So, unfortunately, we had to skip our 6th dungeon. But it's the worst one in the whole game, so I'm sure none of you care anyways. And then we go back to Earth Temple and beat our 6th and final dungeon. We then fight the Horde, which took a few deaths because not having the Master Sword is a huge downgrade here. We fight Girahim and beat Demise. And time. And this challenge is finished. Sheesh, that was not that was not fun. It's a shame Lanayru Mining Facility didn't want to work, but that's all the dungeons backwards, and I am never doing this again. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. My mouth is dry from the amount of talking, and OBS says I've been here for 40 minutes. If this seemed really unorganized, I was kind of talking off the top of my head, and Back in Time honestly gets really confusing. So I was trying my best to simplify everything as best I could. I would really appreciate if you subscribed. I've got a lot more challenges I would like to try in the future, and let me know what you want to see. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. 22 hours, please help me, I'm in editing purgatory.